It just happened. Under the cover of darkness, the USS Dwight D. Eisenhower Carrier Strike Group launched a full-spectrum assault deep inside Iranian territory. This was not a proxy strike. This was not a warning shot. This was a decapitation strike, aimed at the heart of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. But the official target description doesn't match the intelligence coming in. The Pentagon is calling it a strike on a command and control node. The truth is far more explosive. So the question we must answer tonight is this: what was really inside that mountain bunker? And why was the United States willing to risk a full-scale war to destroy it? The operation began at approximately 2 a.m. local time. It was a coordinated, multi-axis attack. The first wave consisted of Tomahawk land attack missiles, launched from the Arleigh Burke-class destroyers USS Gravely and USS Mason, acting as the protective screen for the Eisenhower. These missiles flew a low, terrain-hugging profile, designed to evade Iran's layered air defense network. They were the tip of the spear. Their job was to neutralize the outer defenses, to blind the enemy. Radar installations, anti-aircraft batteries, and communication hubs were systematically dismantled in the opening minutes of the assault. For the IRGC operators at the target site, the world simply went dark. Then came the second wave. 2 full squadrons of F/18E Super Hornets, call sign, Death Dealers, and Vindicators, launched from the Eisenhower's deck. They weren't carrying standard ordnance. Each aircraft was armed with GBU-57 massive ordnance penetrators, the bunker busters, specifically designed to destroy the most hardened and deeply buried targets on Earth. The target was a facility known as KIL-07. Officially, it's a geological research station. Unofficially, according to intelligence sources, it is the IRGC's primary strategic operations center for the entire Levant. From this underground fortress, Iran directs Hezbollah in Lebanon, its militias in Iraq and Syria, and the Houthis in Yemen. It is the brain of their asymmetric empire. The strike was brutally effective. Seismographs in the region registered a minor earthquake at the moment of impact. Thermal imaging from a passing satellite showed a heat bloom that momentarily blinded its sensors. The Kilo 7 facility is no longer a command center. It is a crater. But the story doesn't end there. The official statements from Washington are deliberately vague. They speak of disrupting terrorist networks and protecting U.S. forces. This is standard procedure, but chatter intercepted by signals intelligence units paints a very different picture. An urgent, panicked communication between 2 high-level IRGC commanders was intercepted moments after the strike. One phrase, translated from Farsi, stands out: "The asset is gone. The entire project is compromised." This wasn't just a command bunker. There was something else inside. Something the United States deemed so critical, so dangerous, that a direct act of war on Iranian soil was the only option. And the Iranians didn't just lose a group of generals. They lost an asset so valuable, it could jeopardize their entire strategic vision. The first shots have been fired, but the real mystery is just beginning. We have a breaking development. Just minutes ago, Iranian state media went live with a broadcast from the office of the Supreme Leader, Ayatollah Khamenei. This is not a standard press conference. The Supreme National Security Council has been convened for an emergency session in Tehran. The initial public response is one of calculated fury. The Foreign Ministry has condemned the attack as a blatant act of American terrorism and a violation of international law. This is expected rhetoric, but what's happening behind the scenes is far more alarming. A source inside European intelligence has confirmed that Iran has issued a Nadir 1 alert. Nadir 1 is not a defensive posture. It is the highest state of readiness for Iran's entire asymmetric warfare network. It is the signal to prepare for coordinated, multi-front retaliation. This places every single U.S. asset in the Middle East, and potentially beyond, in immediate danger. Look at the board. Iran's strategy is not to engage the Eisenhower in a conventional naval battle. That would be suicide. Their doctrine is death by 1,000 cuts. The Nadir 1 protocol activates every tool in their arsenal simultaneously. In the Strait of Hormuz, the IRGC Navy's flotillas of heavily armed speedboats are leaving port. They are maneuvering into attack positions along the world's most critical oil choke point. Their mission: to threaten, harass, and potentially close the strait, sending global energy prices into a catastrophic spiral. 30% of the world's seaborne oil passes through that narrow channel. In Yemen, Houthi commanders, fresh off their successes against commercial shipping, have reportedly received new targeting data via a secure channel from Tehran. Their anti-ship ballistic and cruise missiles can now reach further into the Red Sea and the Gulf of Aden, threatening not just commercial vessels, but U.S. naval assets responding to the crisis. In Lebanon and Syria, Hezbollah has placed its elite Radwan force on its highest alert since the 2006 war with Israel. Their vast arsenal of rockets and precision-guided munitions is being readied. While their primary target is normally Israel, a NATO-1 directive could easily shift their focus to U.S. positions in eastern Syria, or even diplomatic facilities across the region. And in Iraq, the Iranian-backed militias, who have been launching sporadic attacks on U.S. troops for months, have gone completely silent. This is the most ominous sign of all. Silence from these groups doesn't mean inaction. It means coordination. They are awaiting a specific target, a specific time, for a synchronized, overwhelming assault. But here is the rehook that changes the equation completely. The NATO-1 alert contains a sub-protocol that has only been activated once before. It's called AMOD, or Rising. It authorizes Quad's Force Special Operations Units to activate sleeper cells on a global scale. The intercepts are still being analyzed, but initial reports from MI6 and the DGSE in France suggest a specific signal has been sent to a network not in the Middle East, but in Western Europe. The target is not military. The intelligence points to civilian infrastructure, port facilities, power grids, or transportation hubs. Iran's retaliation may not be a missile strike that we can see coming. It may be an act of sabotage that cripples a European nation from within. The chessboard is no longer just the Middle East. It is now the entire globe. The intelligence picture is sharpening, and what it reveals is staggering. The strike on the Kilo 7 facility was not a reaction to a previous provocation. It was a preemptive move based on high-risk, high-reward intelligence provided by a human asset deep inside the IRGC. For months, the CIA's Special Activities Center and the Mossad had been tracking a series of clandestine meetings between Iran's top military scientists and foreign nationals. The meetings were happening at Kilo 7, chosen for its remote location and its hardened structure, which was believed to be impenetrable to both electronic surveillance and conventional airstrikes. The U.S. and its allies knew something was being exchanged, but they didn't know what. The initial theory was that it involved Iran's nuclear program. Perhaps they were receiving advanced centrifuge designs or weaponization data. This was alarming, but it fit a known pattern. The reality, discovered only 72 hours before the strike, was far more immediate and destabilizing. The foreign nationals were not nuclear scientists. They were specialists in artificial intelligence, swarm robotics, and encrypted battlefield networking. Analysis of the intelligence revealed Iran was on the verge of acquiring a revolutionary command and control system for its drone and missile forces. This wasn't just an upgrade. It was a paradigm shift. Imagine a swarm of 200 Shahed drones and cruise missiles launched simultaneously, not at a single target, but at an entire carrier strike group. With this new technology, the drones wouldn't need individual operators. They would communicate with each other, sharing data, identifying threats, and adapting their attack plan in real time. One drone identifies the Eisenhower's radar emissions. It instantly shares that data with the entire swarm. Another drone is shot down by a Sea Sparrow missile. The rest of the swarm automatically reroutes its attack vectors to exploit the gap in the carrier's defenses. It is a system designed to overwhelm even the most advanced air defense network in the world, like the AEGIS system on U.S. warships. It turns cheap, expendable drones into a single, intelligent, carrier-killing organism. The intelligence suggested the final hardware component and the activation codes were being delivered at Kilo 7 on the night of the strike. The U.S. wasn't just destroying a bunker. It was trying to kill a technological monster in its crib. And this leads to the most explosive revelation of all: the identity of the foreign power providing this technology. It wasn't North Korea. It wasn't China. The human asset confirmed the individual delivering the final component was a high-ranking officer from Russia's SVR, their foreign intelligence service. He was a known specialist in integrating AI into unconventional warfare systems. The asset the IRGC commanders were panicking about was not just the technology, it was the Russian officer. The United States didn't just bomb an Iranian facility. They knowingly targeted, and almost certainly killed, a senior Russian intelligence official on Iranian soil. The implications are terrifying. This is no longer a two-player game between Washington and Tehran. A third, nuclear-armed player has just been violently dragged onto the field. The strike wasn't just an attack, it was a message to Moscow, and Moscow's response is now the most dangerous unknown in this entire crisis. The situation is escalating. The National Military Command Center at the Pentagon is now at DEFCON 3, for all U.S. forces operating in the Central Command Area of Responsibility. Communications coming from the Eisenhower Strike Group are now heavily encrypted and minimal. They have gone to full battle stations. The assassination of the Russian SVR officer has fundamentally changed the calculus of this conflict. This is no longer simply about Iranian retaliation. It is now about the potential for a direct confrontation between the United States and the Russian Federation. Moscow has been publicly silent so far, but behind the scenes, diplomatic channels are white-hot. Russia will not let the death of one of its senior officers go unanswered. They won't risk a direct nuclear exchange, but they have 1,000 ways to bleed the United States using their own proxy networks. We are now in the window of maximum danger. The Iranian retaliation is no longer a question of if, but when, and how. With Moscow now a silent partner in their quest for revenge, their options have expanded dramatically. Scenario 1. The Strait of Hormuz. This is the classic play. Iran uses its swarms of fast-attack craft and anti-ship missiles to close the strait. This would be an economic declaration of war on the entire world. The U.S. Navy would be forced to engage directly to reopen the channel, leading to a bloody naval conflict that could last for weeks. Scenario 2. The Coordinated Swarm. This is the nightmare scenario. Iran, even without the new Russian technology fully integrated, could launch a massive, synchronized missile and drone attack against U.S. bases and allies across the region. Targets could include Al Udeid Air Base in Qatar, the Navy's 5th Fleet headquarters in Bahrain, and critical Saudi oil infrastructure. The goal would be to overwhelm defenses through sheer numbers, proving that no U.S. base is safe. Scenario 3. The Asymmetric Ghost. This is the most likely course of action, now amplified by potential Russian involvement. Iran forgoes a dramatic military spectacle for a series of deniable, crippling attacks. A cyber attack, potentially using Russian-developed malware, takes down the power grid in a U.S. ally. The European sleeper cells, now possibly advised by Russian intelligence, execute their attack on a major port like Rotterdam, disrupting global supply chains. A sophisticated IED attack targets a U.S. patrol in Syria. Each event, on its own, is below the threshold of all-out war, but together they create a relentless campaign of chaos. The strike on KIL-07 was a massive strategic gamble by the United States. They successfully prevented Iran from acquiring a game-changing military technology and sent a brutal message to both Tehran and Moscow. But in doing so, they have backed two adversaries into a corner. They have created a unified front of two powers who now share a common cause: to make America pay a price for its actions. The initial question was, why did the U.S. strike? The question now is, how will Iran and Russia strike back? The next 48 hours will be critical. The world is watching, waiting for the other shoe to drop. The front line is no longer a distant desert. It is everywhere. The intelligence is changing by the second. This is a live, evolving situation. To ensure you don't miss a single critical update, subscribe to breaking_the_front and activate all notifications. Our mission is to deliver the ground truth, unfiltered, as it happens. Stay informed, stay vigilant.